Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. First down with Bennie Fowler. Coming up next, a Week 7 recap of the NFL slate with a Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver Bennie Fowler. First, want to tell you about mybookie.ag. Pat's picks went 3-0 against the spread this week. You have to find those picks every week on mybookie.ag. Make this football season a winning season and use the Pat's Picks promo code on the link in my social media profiles to get a 100% match on your first deposit or $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to reduce inflammation and improve immune and heart health and lower cholesterol with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. Use the promo code TalkingBall25 or the QR code on your screen, and you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes me 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte. Go to the link estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And now on to First Down with Bennie Fowler, Week 7 edition here on the Believe Network. All right, welcome back to Week 7 edition of First Down with Bennie Fowler, where we get the opinions and analysis of a Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver. Beans, what's up? How you doing?
Pat, I'm good, man. Another crazy week of NFL football, but man, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
No doubt. Let's start with the crazy right here in my backyard. The Eagles boat race the Giants, and our guy Daniel Jones gets benched early fourth quarter. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 176 yards, 10.4 per carry with a touchdown. And the Giants only had 119 yards of total offense, Benny, the first time since 1999 it's been that bad. And I want to throw some stats at you first before we get into this. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll now in their 3 years, 1-10 record against the Eagles and Cowboys, their two biggest rivals, have been outscored 339 to 168 in those games. 0-3 NFC East this season, 0-4 at home, averaging 7 points per game at home. The Eagles go for 269 rushing yards, and Deonte Banks, a corner, quits on the field on a play for the second time in 4 weeks. And Malik Neighbors, after the game, was answering a lot of questions with, "I was open. Check the film." Benny, where do we start here? Where does the blame belong? Is it unfair that Daniel got pulled from this game? Where do you see this falling with the Giants right now?
What was the score when Daniel got pulled?
They were down 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I don't think he necessarily got benched. I don't think I wouldn't call that a benching just because they didn't feel like they had a chance to really get back in. I mean, you see this sometimes where, there's not really an opportunity to come back. Let's put somebody else in there. Daniel does have a little bit of an injury history. Let's take him out of the game. I'm not saying by any means that they are trying to protect Daniel, but I wouldn't call that a benching. I would say if it happened in the first half, I would consider that a benching. But regardless, this organization and this team right now is lacking leadership. And I can say that for both of the New York teams, where they are lacking leadership, from the GM to the coaching all the way down to the players. There's just no accountability, no leadership. When somebody quits on a play, that speaks to the culture. When you have a young Malik Neighbors talking about I, that speaks to the culture. There is no culture at either one of the teams, but specifically talking about the Giants right now, your culture walked out of that locker room and he had 189 all-purpose yards, and he was on the other side. So when you have a leader like that, when you have somebody who is a selfless teammate, one of the best teammates that I've ever had, and also one of the most talented players that I ever played with in Saquon.
Wow.
you that's what happens. And I played with Saquon his first and second year, and yeah, he was young, and he had some injuries, but you still could see the talent, and you could still see the competitiveness, and you saw the competitiveness yesterday, and he made it a point to truck people on the sideline, to let that coaching staff know, to let those fans know, hey, it wasn't me, it was everybody else on the other side, and that's what we saw. And it sucks that Daniel has to go through this, but he needs to change the scenery. He needs to get out of New York. He needs to find a different place where he can just get a reset, where he can be reset and just have a refresh. He needs that. And you saw I talked about it at the beginning of when we first started this at the beginning of the season, that Saquon was going to have Penn State like numbers, and he was going to give the Giants hell. And that's because he was going to go play a place where there was more talent. And that's what you see right now in New York. And it sucks. And Slay didn't play yesterday, right?
Darius Slay or Darius Slayton?
Slayton.
Slayton did play.
He did play, and he didn't get the ball a lot.
Yeah, they just barely generated any yards at all. I mean, nobody really got the ball a lot. Darius Slayton ended up in this game with 1 catch for 11 yards.
How many targets?
3.
I mean, just coaching.
Yeah. That's an interesting point you mentioned about how you don't really consider that the benching. Maybe they're protecting him from injury because, Benny, that is the real context of this, where if they are going to move on from Daniel next year, there is an injury kicker clause in his contract where he would get $23 million of his $30 million salary next year guaranteed if he sustains an injury this year that prevents him from passing a physical in March. And actually, Adam Schefter put a rare byline on a story several weeks ago about the potential of that happening, similar to like Russell Wilson in Denver, of Daniel Jones maybe getting benched in relation to that, and then they pull him from this game. So that's still a very real thing. Is that the exact reason why they did it on Sunday? We don't know that yet, but that is a part of the context here. So that's a really smart point by you. I wanted you to react to this quote from Saquon as well. I actually caught up. No surprise to you that he gave me, after his press conference, he gives me 6 minutes one-on-one at his locker in the visitors' locker rooms. Very strange. But first of all, he's in a great headspace, Benny. Like he really is. He was so funny. He said, "I'm mature now, Pat. I write things down in my daily planner. I'm focused on consistency." I was like, I'm impressed. But I asked him about what it was like seeing Daniel get benched. And he said, well, it sucks for me to hear the boos for him. And this is what he said to me. Fans don't get it. They give us a hard time. We know sometimes the games don't go like we would like, but Daniel works his ass off. He'll do anything for the organization to try to win a Super Bowl. He says, I know the fans are over it, meaning the losing. And the fans are tired of the BS and the same old stuff, but it's sad because there's guys who don't care in this league and there's guys who do care. And he's one of those guys. So it sucks to see that, but he'll shake back. What do you think of that comment about him at the end there, about how there's guys who do and guys who don't, and Daniel is one who does? Is that a very real kind of description of not only the NFL, but also a reason maybe to appreciate Daniel beyond the numbers and the on-field stuff?
I mean, it's one of the things that why people love DJ. And you don't see, at least his teammates, you don't see any of his teammates throwing him under the bus because they do know how hard he works. They know the attention to detail. Daniel's the first one in that building. He's the last one to leave. So, yeah, it does suck. And it sucks, to be a former teammate of his, or in Saquon's, eyes, playing with DJ for maybe 6 years or however long it was, 4 or 5 years, whatever it may have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sucks for Saquon to see it. And Saquon can actually take a step back now, and he's on the other side of it and is in a thriving situation and can see that, your hard work will actually pay off when you do have the proper roster and proper roster construction around you, and a team and an organization that is looking to try to win. Now, regardless of the Philadelphia Eagles leadership, you can still see that it's a super talented team. And Daniel's never had a super talented team in New York. Not at all. We've never looked at the roster since Daniel's been there and be like, this is a damn good roster. Never.
Right.
We've never.
It's on the quarterback to take us to the promised land because everything else is in place. Right.
So I just fall back on leadership. I fall back on roster construction. I fall back on culture. just in terms of what I've seen as a player and what I've been able to be a part of. The culture that we had in Denver when I was playing with Peyton, I think, Eli had incredible leadership when I was playing there, but our culture still stunk. It wasn't great. And then going to play with Sean Payton in 2020 and finishing up training camp in my career with Kyle Shanahan, I know what great culture looks like. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. So yeah, I know the Giants don't have it, and you can tell.
So Benny, that's great perspective. My perspective, I don't think Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll should be the leadership of this team after this season. I frankly, as we sit here on Monday, October 21st, as we record here, this is one of those days where I'm constantly looking at my phone, sending texts and emails, wondering whether something's going to come down. Now, I don't know if a midseason firing is going to happen. There's still many weeks left in the season. I wanted to ask you, you look at the Jets, you mentioned them briefly about kind of the lack of leadership and culture there. Is the way that they are still dysfunctional and honestly look like an even worse team since Robert Saleh's firing and Jeff Ulbrich takes over as interim. Is that an argument for why the Giants should not just fire Brian Daboll early or mid-season the way that I'm kind of advocating for based on what I see? Like, is that kind of a statement to, listen, ride it out, let it go at the end of the season. If it's time to change, pull the plug, but don't do it now? Or do you have to kind of block that out and say, like, our situation's our own?
Yeah, their situation, the Giants situation, is their own. And what's firing Daboll actually going to do? It's not going to do anything. The Giants don't have a chance of making the playoffs. So it doesn't really matter to fire him unless you just want to see the team super miserable. So yeah, there's no reason to actually fire him. Nothing's going to change. No momentum will be gained. And it doesn't really matter. Everybody, this is one of those situations right now in the Giants, actually, that what I experienced my 2 years in the Giants, where every man for himself. Everybody's playing for stats now. Everybody's playing for contracts. Everybody's, oh, look at me. That's where it goes. I've had some good mentors and friends tell me in the league, yeah, when you get to this point in the season right now, there's not a chance at the playoff. It's all about you. And that's what you're getting ready to see from the Giants.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So really you're saying the difference there is like Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, he's convinced himself that with some changes, they could still compete and be better. But you're saying the Giants have to be realistic that firing the coach or shaking anything up right now is not turning you into a contender this year. So why do it, essentially?
Exactly. Why do it?
Got you. Yeah, no, very interesting. Pivoting to the team that spanked the Jets on Sunday night. Benny, I think along with a lot of other people, and maybe you too, were skeptical that a Pittsburgh team that looked pretty good just was inserting Russell Wilson seemingly for no reason. They thumped the Jets 37-15. After a shaky start, Wilson finishes 16 of 29, 264, and 2 touchdowns. And this team is 5-2 right now with the Giants and a bye coming up. Did you like the end result of this decision from Mike Tomlin? How do you see the Steelers moving on from here? Does this make them a better team, or are you kind of still watching and wait and see type thing?
I think it's still a wait and see situation. I think that, they do have a favorable matchup coming up with the Giants where they can get a nice win, be 6-2 heading into the bye, which is a great spot to be in terms of midway through the season. They can get a little bit healthier, but their defense is incredible. Mike Tomlin is one of the best leaders. He proves to be right now in terms of making that decision with the Russell Wilson thing. But I still don't think Russell Wilson, he didn't go out there and win them that game. He made some really good throws in terms of the short red zone throws to the receivers and Pickens and Vance Jefferson. I thought those were great throws. And I think that's where he is better than Justin Fields. Where they will be in trouble, I think, is later on down the road when they start to get into those division games is now we could still see that Russell Wilson can't get away from the pressure. And he still made some pretty bad throws, and George Pickens made some pretty incredible catches last night. So I think the jury is still out. I think they do end up going back to Justin Fields maybe later on down the road. Because, Russell Wilson was still holding on to the ball. He still can't see over the line of scrimmage. And, some of these plays, the Jets defense just stunk last night, and they had a lot of people out. So I'm not just sold on terms of, hey, Russell Wilson, he looked like how he was when he was in Seattle.
He's back.
Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, no.
You know what's interesting? I was looking at the AFC playoff picture. Obviously, we're still only in week 7 here, and Baltimore and Tampa and Chargers, Arizona still about to play on Monday night as we record here on Monday afternoon. But Benny, to me, the AFC playoff picture feels like it's already set to me. I mean, you have the Chiefs at 6-0, Houston 5-2, Pittsburgh 5-2, Buffalo 5-2, Baltimore 4-2 with a game to play, Chargers 3-2 with an extremely favorable schedule. And then really there's that 7 spot. Right now the Colts are in at 4-3. Maybe you have Denver at 4-3 and Cincinnati at 3-4. But am I crazy to say that like after that, Miami, Raiders, Jets, Jags, we're really in the AFC talking about seeding at this point and maybe like the 7 seed? Am I off my rocker here?
No, I mean, the AFC is definitely not as strong as we thought it was going to be going into the season. You know, Jacksonville's been a disappointment. The Colts aren't really all that good. But yeah, those teams, I think we could see a late surge from Cincinnati, but they got a hell of a schedule that remains in terms of all the division games that they have, and then they have to stay healthy. So
right,
it's going to be a crazy finish, I think, with just those top 5 to 6 teams, and maybe Cincinnati's squeaking in there. But now we're looking at Kansas City, Baltimore, and Houston talking about who's going to vie for the home field advantage.
Yeah, no, good point. And Kansas City, another impressive win, 28-18 over the Niners. And by impressive, I don't mean pretty. I mean that they just know how to win. Like Mahomes goes 16 of 27, 154 yards, 2 interceptions. But Benny, how about this? We talked about this last week too. Kareem Hunt, 22 carries. This guy wasn't even on a team a couple weeks ago. 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Steve Spagnuolo flustering Brock Purdy into 3 interceptions. Benny, is the Chiefs' quiet superpower Spags? Like it is the fact that they can just kind of get their way through. They don't have to go make that Devontae Adams type trade. That they can just kind of weather the storm and win in the playoffs, because as much as Andy Reid is deserving of praise and an exciting play caller, Carson Wentz even played a snap in this game, by the way. Is Spags the secret superpower here?
No, he's not the secret superpower, because everybody knows about Spags and everybody understands what he brings to the table. I would say they just know how to win. They are just a great team now. And they're learning how to win. Now, what I will say is that Patrick Mahomes obviously has to be better, but he still doesn't trust. There are people open on these plays, and he just doesn't trust these receivers to catch. I think there was one play at the beginning of the game where they run a little, we call it a Bulls concept. That's what we used to call it with Peyton, which you have a sit route and then you have a dig coming behind it.
Okay.
Beginning of the game, he doesn't throw it, ends up running for a first down, I believe. Second quarter, they run the same play. He throws it to Sky Moore, and Sky Moore drops it. He's wide open. So, like, Patrick's in this point right now where he just doesn't trust. He trusts the tight ends. He doesn't trust any other receivers. He missed a deep bomb to Xavier Worthy, which I don't think he'll continue to miss. He missed another deep ball to Kelsey, but he's now he has to get to the point where he has to start to anticipate these throws, not throw with a whole bunch of velocity, but start to anticipate the throws before they get out of the break. So now he has to take that next step into his progression. If I were him in the offseason, I would be hitting up Tom Brady and Peyton Manning in terms of how do I take the next step in my progression as a quarterback. But when we go back to the Kansas City Chiefs and who they are, they know how to win these games. And Tom Brady, one of the things that made him incredible, which I've talked to you about before, is that he will do whatever it takes to win the game. Yeah, 154 yards, 2 picks. Yeah, it looks nasty, but what about the 30-yard run at the end of the game? What about the small things that he does? What about him trucking the safety from San Francisco? So, yeah, it doesn't look pretty right now, but he also isn't playing with all the weapons that he wants. Juju Smith-Schuster gets hurt. Not Xavier Worthy, but Marquise Brown hurt. Rashid Rice out for the season. Yeah. So Patrick Mahomes is still playing well despite the weapons. I hope they go out there and get Tyreek Hill. Just bring him back. You know, Tyreek Hill, I mean, you don't know about Tua's career and where he's going. Miami's not that good.
That's being friendly. You're being
Yeah.
generous to Miami there.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill, go, bring him back, plug and play.
Oh, I love it. When you say that Mahomes needs to start learning how to anticipate the throws, are you saying because these guys are dropping passes, he needs to take something off the throw and therefore throw it earlier? Or are you saying you see him waiting for the guy to uncover first and he needs to throw it before the guy's actually open?
He doesn't necessarily have to take anything off the ball. I
Oh.
mean, he could. I mean, you like CJ Stroud, he anticipates his throws a little bit, but I would say it's more of just trusting these people getting in and out of the breaks. And hey, if you look at the TV copy of the film, or not the TV copy, but the coach's copy of the film, there are plenty of people open. He's got to hit some of these people now. It's time for him just to take the progression up in his game.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So switching over to the NFC playoff picture, Benny, a little more interesting there. Unfortunately, seeing Jaden Daniels go down with a rib injury, hopefully not too serious. Sounds like he's getting further tests after initially people said that it seemed like he was okay. But we have Detroit at 5-1 after an impressive win in Minnesota, Washington 5-2, Tampa 4-2, Seattle 4-3, Minnesota 5-1, Green Bay 5-2, Chicago 4-2. And then behind that, you have the Eagles potentially finding some footing 4-2. I think Atlanta is not a real team, but they're 4-3. Dallas is 500. Who knows? But then Benny, like San Fran is 3-4. If they get healthy, who knows? And even the Rams, like getting this win, I mean, it's ugly. If they don't get guys healthy, they might just run out of time. But them getting this win, being 2-4, like the West just seems really up in the air with kind of some of the better teams unhealthy and possibly surging down the finish. So I don't know if any of those teams kind of open your eyes to being challengers or kind of flipping the script in the NFC, whether it's San Fran, Rams, Philly, or maybe you disagree with me over the Falcons, but seems like there's more parity right now going on over there in the NFC.
Yeah, definitely a lot of parity going on in the NFC. I'm not an Atlanta person in terms of believing that they'll make any type of noise. The NFC South is just it's a weird division. I just think Tampa's going to run away with that division. Dallas definitely isn't a real contender. I can't put my finger on the Eagles in terms of what can I trust them later on down the road. I believe in their running game, and I believe in Saquon, and I know they got incredible talent on the outside, but I don't know if I just believe Jalen Hurts, if he's got to go throw the ball more than 25 times, like, can they really do it in terms of that offense? But yeah, if San Fran gets healthy, they can be a problem. But right now, I mean, you don't know if McCaffrey's coming back. They said Ayuk might have an ACL. So, I think San Fran is just running up against just the toughness of going deep into the playoffs back-to-back years. And some of those injuries, similar to Kansas City, are catching up with them. Usually they've been the healthier team later on down the road, but I think the NFC will sort itself out after Thanksgiving in terms of who's going to play some really good ball. Detroit is playing phenomenal, and they're just an absolute unit as a team in terms of the way the way they flow, the play calling, the way Jared Goff is playing, their receivers, incredible. They got to stay healthy though, and they need to trade for a pass rusher before it gets bad. Because right now Sam Darnold did have a lot of time to throw, and they did, but it was a tough win on the road. So Green Bay, Jordan Love turns the ball over, but at the same time he makes explosive plays. So
yeah,
we'll see what it looks like down the road.
For the record, after you told us here on last week's episode of First Down with Bennie Fowler that you were already in the market as a Lion for the pass rusher before Aiden Hutchinson went down, and now they needed two. Literally 12 hours after we posted that, there was a report that the Lions had checked in, I believe, on Hassan Reddick or that situation.
Yep.
And so we had already dropped his name. You had already kind of put it out there that was a need prior to the injury. So way ahead of the curve there. They're definitely still in that market. I mentioned Myles Garrett. You told me I was crazy, but Zadarius Smith from Cleveland was a name that popped up on a report as a potential target there. And Deshaun Watson with an Achilles now. That team, obviously, a crumbling mess. Amari Cooper's gone already traded. So that could be potential.
Fire sale.
Fire sale. I'll close with this. I know your time is valuable, but you mentioned the Detroit Lions
wanted to dive into this for a few minutes. So, Benny, last week when they dismantled the Cowboys, David Montgomery, 12 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gibbs had 12 carries as well in that game, but Montgomery kind of ruled the day in the running game. This game, Gibbs, 19 touches, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, including on the final game-winning drive, 3 touches for 44 yards. Benny, are the Lions ahead of the curve of some other teams, understanding that the NFL has kind of gone back to a run-heavier offensive success type league, and not only investing in it, but having 2 guys who can control the line of scrimmage week in and week out is putting them kind of a leg up on a lot of the rest of the league right now?
I wouldn't say the Lions are reinventing anything. What I think they've done really well is those guys up front. Don't get me wrong, David Montgomery is an incredible back, and Jamar Gibbs, an explosive playmaker, but it starts with their offensive line. And you saw this, or you see this, when San Fran is healthy, incredible running game. When I played in New Orleans with Sean Payton, you had an Alvin Kamara and you had a Latavius Murray. So the NFL has been like this. You have had explosive backs. I think it's just incredible to see it out of the Lions, who, have become, I would say, one of the NFL's most fun teams and favorite teams to watch because of the unique play style, the unique play calling. But everybody's going to look at the running backs. All I look at is the offensive line, because they are dominating literally every defensive line that they play. They are pushing people back. Every play, every run play is a positive run. It's 3 to 4 yards at the minimum. And then all of the misdirection with the motions and the zone cutting and Ben Johnson and the play calling, it all goes together. Yeah, the running backs, yes, they are the exciting people because they are carrying the ball, but it really just starts up front. So that's what they've done really well.
Invest there, yeah. And honestly, ever since we had the conversation last week where you said they need to go to Ben Johnson and pay him whatever he wants to make sure he stays because of the momentum that the offense and the team have, that the chemistry he has with Jared Goff, I've been thinking more and more about that. And it's going to be an even bigger issue week to week now, because you already have Robert Saleh fired, Brian Daboll hot seat, Gerard Mayo in New England, first-year head coach, just called his own team soft, which obviously reflects on him. You have Dennis Allen in New Orleans losing 33-10 at home to Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, where frankly, I thought I saw some players quit on the field as well. So that, yes, those are all individual situations that are interesting in and of themselves. But I keep thinking about Ben Johnson and whether the Lions will be able to prevent him from leaving again, because he was a big factor in that Washington hunt. He comes back. Can they keep it going and keep him here? Because he's really going to be in high demand.
If I'm Dan Campbell, if I am the Ford family, if I am Brad Holmes, I am doing everything. And I'm telling Ben Johnson, hey, we will pay you like a head coach. We want you to stay here. We want you to continue to develop this culture with us. You are a leader within this organization. You can't lose a guy like that. We saw it in New England. Josh McDaniels goes to be a head coach for the Broncos first. Offense isn't the same. No Super Bowls. Goes back, 3 Super Bowls, goes to become the Raiders head coach. Then the offense becomes a shit show, and Tom Brady retires. So that camaraderie, that chemistry, that means a lot to a quarterback. And I don't know, Jared Goff, he's only incompleted 12 to 15 passes over the last 3 weeks, which is insane to say. But that's because of the trust and the camaraderie, and he believes in the play call coming from Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson believes in him. So, don't overestimate that stuff.
Benny, this has been a lot of fun. Some of our viewers here on the Talking Ball with Pat Leonard podcast have commented on my YouTube page that this is their favorite recap of NFL action every week.
Let's go.
So let's go. That's because of you and all the insight you are bringing. It's excellent as always. Thank you so much for giving us your time again, and we'll look forward to breaking it down in week 8.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Pat.
That was another awesome episode of First Down with Bennie Fowler here on the Talking Ball with Pat Leonard podcast on the Believe Network. Remember to sign up with MyBookie for your sports betting. Make the football season a winning season with MyBookie. I went 3-0 against the spread this week with my Pats picks. We had the Bills, the Commanders, and the Chiefs all covering. Use the promo code Pats Picks for 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Also, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour the natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Use the promo code TalkinBall25 at boomchaga.com and get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal today.